microphone that picks up with the laptop.
I want to welcome everybody to the Hakhel Siyum Harambam. This year, Siyum Harambam includes the 2 tracks of him and other. We are who works together in order to make this happen. I want to thank the members of the VAD and their organizations that they represent, Rabbi Meir Shimon Moskowitz, Rabbi Eliyahu Nelson Silverberg, Lubavitch Sifter Chicago, and Rabbi Yitzchak Wolf from Simon J. Abrams, Kedel Lubavitch. These people, although not every one of, I feel I am here on their behalf to welcome everybody, and every single one of them have put countless hours into this, being able to go through all the details and so forth. I want to also thank a number of individual, Rabbi Levi Stern, Rabbi Shmuel Chaim Sharf, and everybody has the schus of being part of this event. We are going to begin with our Divrei Bracha. I'm going to ask the Ma'areya, the Achsais of Unger, to say a few words, Divrei Bracha. He will be speaking in Yiddish, so those who know Yiddish, if they can translate.
Rav Jacobson, der gedammt bin zu Besmetisch, bald geht like Bäume, ich denke mit der Klugheit, die Lubavitcher Rebbe ist schon wirklich gestanden, front of 770, es ging an der Bäume Parade, gleich der Hand so, alle Floats sind durchgegangen, die waren bei Christi jedem einen. Ich will reden 3 in die Kiddes. Eins der Geschiebes von Harambam Nacht, die zweite Sache will ich reden, a überkehren ist ein Mannleben, was der Harambam hat gemacht. Und die dritte Sache hoffe ich zu geben, der Lubavitcher Eulen du, als Schaskes, und als Schaskes auf die Kinder, die gemacht wird von Harambam. Kava Yusha ist gewesen, sei verheiligt bei unseren Rebbes. Der Kolschen Zermagel dort gesucht, und lernt ein Stückel Säue in der Kava Yusha, wer temen ist eure, wie Säue allein. Also Amin Heiligkeit liegt in zusammen die alle heiligen Maluchen. Wenn wir geht machen a Bruch auf der Mitzvah, stehen die alle Maluchen, wir warten auf die Menschen machen die Brüche, in der Maluchen wir suchen ein. Ich mein, an mich suchen, als noch 3 Jahre oder 1 Jahr Haravanie, na dort in der Harambam, wir macht haben nach Asien, kommen wir zusammen hunderte Millionen Maluchen, von die alle Reguren, was man gelernt der Harambam, in Stein warten auf der Asien. Der Platz, wo jetzt alle zusammenkommen, ist Admas Koideshi, was ungepackt für 100 Millionen Maluchen für Steine warten auf der Mamet. Das ist eine Sache, was ich wollte sagen. Die zweite Sache ist, ich wollte sagen, als der Harambam in Hilches Mamrem ist Megala a hafledike Chiddisch. Der Harambam Umfang ihres Mamrem sucht, als jede Mitzvah der Rabbunon ist du eine Mitzvah der Reise ab ihr teuerische Richu. In Tome Volk bin ich der Mitzvah der Rabbunon, ist Oiva Loi Sesem, hat Loi Susi. Und das kommt von der Pusik, in Parche Schäuftem, steht in Teure durch ab ihr teuerische Richu, das ist die Mitzvah des Essen, und das Salf von der Pusik steht, Loi Susi, und du geschieht durch Jumens Zmoil. Ist der Rambam in Hilches Mamre im Umfang ein paar Gerichte, sucht der Rambam als jede Sache. Sehr interessante Werte, was der Rambam sucht. Als Eiche dat Wum Shalom die Ois und Pia Schmier, wir haben Teusche Baper, Eiche Wum Shalom die Ois und Pia Datan, Verachas mit der Teure Dresches bei Heinz Gewiese, man nennt es heraus. Wenn Nere bei Naim, Shadin Duba Zei Kachi, ist jede Sache, kol Eiche mit solchen Wum, als Eili mit das Essen, die Schmoyer im Herrn, am mit das Essen, zu folgen der Heilige Chazal. Wo Oiva kal Achas mehen, Oiva Loi Sesse. Das ist der Rambam in Hilches Mamrem. Enige weet dat ook de Rambam in de Hakdomme zu der Rambam allein, kommt aus von der Rambam, ein gewaltige Chiddisch, wo der Heilige Moishes Machadish do. Ich sage, Moishes Machadish, als eine interessante Sache. The couple of the Kop, haben wir Chazal gleich auf unsere Kap, 1900 Jahre zurück. Ist nach Moishe sucht, the couple of the Kop, jede Regel, am Mitzvah der Reis ab die Teusche Richu, und am Mitzvah Loi Ses, Loi Susse. Kommt doch aus Azoi, als jede Schuh, ist du am Mitzvah 3600 Sekundes, jede Schuh verdient mit der Couple of the Kopf 7200 Mitzvahs. Und man macht das, multiplied das 24 Stunden Tag, 7 Tage a Woche, ist jeder eine von uns kann erreichen durch die Couple of the Kopf 1.200.000 Mitzvahs jede Woche. Man ist Pille-Peluim. Red nur wegen der Couple. Interessante Sache, als der Couple of the Kopf steht in Bes Yosef in Simmel Samach Wuf, der Pfarr macht mit der Brüche Oita Yisur bis Sefuru. Wir haben uns weggelegt, ach Scheinkeit auf der Kopf, als unsere Kämpfe sind bekreunt mit der Yamak auf der Kopf. Das ist nur eine Kette, wo kommt doch der Rambam in der Gedumme zu der Rambam, sagt der Rambam, sehr interessante Werte. Der Rambam sagt, als Kola Dvurim shebetal mit Habavli, Chayuvin kol Beis Yisur lelegers behem, Verkäufen kol wie Medina nennig behem, sagt also jede Chazal, jede Gemur ist mit Effen Tov, da Mitte der Reise zu folgen der Chazal, in Mitte Loi Sesem und Loi Sus, die ganze Zeit mit Bavli. Sehr interessante Sache, sagt der Chinnach, in Mitzvah Tuf Tzadik Wuf, als wie weit geht, weil der Rambam ist nur der Besen gut beschrieben Shalayim. Aber der Kinder gesagt, als das geht vor jede einzige Dorf, in jede Kuchen, wo stellt er weg an die Kinder, geht es daran, mit der Reise, auf die Teusche Riechen, mit der Susse. Sehr interessante Sache, ist Mechadisch, der Yitzchak Moshe, das ist ein gewaltiger Chiddisch, als jede Mitzvah, was wir weisen, was wir tun, unter Chazal, kommt aus Beschaß mit der Mitzvah, kann man auch getrachten, mit Volk der Chazal. Rauf Mitzvah sagt weisen, was wir tun, unter Chazal. Sehr interessante Sache, sagt der Urcha Schilchen, in Choyshe Mishpet, Zimmer Tov Chuf, Ois Ches, bei der Mitzvah von ein Tag als nicht du kann ein Mitzvah in der Teure Gedeutsche, was mir weisen, was wir tun, unter Chazal. Ähnliche Werte sucht der Tanje in der Geres Akkoidisch Ois Chuftes. Der Tanje sucht das so. Der Tanje sucht, ki Yerutzoin in Elinburgi haben durch Betayag Mitzvahs, Betayag Mitzvahs. Wo es liegt in der Teure, der Tayag Mitzvahs, sucht der Tanje, Miflu im Chisse, Tume Benelo, sie verhalten, verstehen nicht, der Titzig dort, war einem ist Gali Betäusche Bapeh. Der Tanje sucht, wir verstehen nicht, was Titzig in der ganzen Teure und der Chazal. Man geht an Muschel, Zwillen. Weißt du, was Zwillen ist und der Chazal gut nicht? Der Tanje hat dieselbe Sache. Also jede Mitzvah in der Teure Shebeksav ist verdeckt von uns, nur mit der Teure Shebapeh. Der Rambam ist ins Megale, was Titzig in der Teure Shebapeh. So, das ist, was ich wollte reden, wegen der Yamek auf der Kopf. In alle Mitzvahs der Rabbunon wird der Reise. Jetzt will ich sogar eine interessante Sache, was es eine Geier zu allen Lubavitcher Jiden. Es kommt aus, nur der Chinuch, kommt aus, als eine interessante Sache. Baruch Hashem, und jetzt ist endlich der Rambam, am Machse von 3 Jahren oder 1 Jahr, was man schon viel gerät, was du sitzen jetzt du, im Warte von jetzt 100 Millionen Maluchim von der Siyum, aber jetzt man hat eine neue Machse, wie bald der Rebbe, der Choyne Buch hat geheißen mit der Rambam, ist für alle Babelsche Chusid, geht es ein Mitzvah Pitoische Riech und Lesusse. Setzt sich lehnen morgen, man hat noch einmal Rambam, jede Regel, Achitz lehne teure Deutsche, was mit der Reise, ist noch 2 Mitzvahs, von folgenden Rebbe, der Choyne Buch, Pitoische Riech und Lesusse. So der Rebbe schon Leuten helfen, aber mit der Kiddush Hashem, was kocht sich auf Hand, was ist nicht mehr geworden, einmal Rambam, in 1 Jahr oder 3 Jahr Machse, soll das geben an Koyach in ein gewaltiges Schatzes von der kümmerige Machse, und wir sollen solche Sachen bei Kurab zu sehen, der Schief in ganz klar ist, und es wird sich gehen, habe ich meine, oh mein.
I'd like to ask, we have the honor of having with us Rabbi Yonah Rees, who's the Av Bezin of the CRC. Ask him to give some Divrei Bracha, cover the event.
I hope it's okay if I speak in English. So, I was asked to speak for a couple of minutes just for some brief divrei bracha. We heard gewaltige divrei Torah. I'm just going to add a little bit about this special occasion. The Rambam wrote it in his Hakdama to the Mishnah Torah. We're celebrating the Siyum, tremendous achievement. He said, Karasi, Hashem Chibur Zeh Mishnah Torah. I call this Mishnah Torah like a review of the Torah. A person reads Torah Shebektav originally. Mishnah is also a second. This is the secondary. A person will, after they read the Torah Shebektav, they'll read my Chibur on Mishnah Torah, and they'll know all of Torah Sheba'al Peh. That was the Rambam's goal, to take everything that preceded him in terms of Bavli, Yerushalmi, Tosefta, Midrashei Halach, Midrashei Agadah, combine it all together, give you the bottom line that you'll know what Torah Sheba'al Peh has to say about everything. And then the Rambam seemed to make a very bold statement. He said, you don't have to read anything else between the Torah Shebektav and my Sefer, Mishnah Torah. You got everything covered. Of course, we know the Ravid wasn't so pleased with this particular statement. When I attended once a conference, it was called an International Symposium on Jewish Values, when I was serving as a Menahel at Yeshivat Rabbeinu Yitzchak Elchanan. They asked me to attend this symposium, and they had all kinds of fancy schmancy speakers from all over, all different disciplines and academic backgrounds. So they had a very well-known professor of law from Harvard University, not necessary to mention the specific name, a world-renowned personality. And he got up and he said, the Rambam was a failure. So the Rambam was a failure because he wrote in his introduction to the Mishnah Torah that nobody will have a need for anything else other than the Sefer, and that's not what ended up happening. There was a tremendous need. Everybody learns all of the other Sfarim. They learn Gemaras, they learn other Rishonim, etc. So we see it was a failure. So I was pretty mild-mannered and wouldn't really speak out of place, but somehow this was too much for me to bear, to hear the Kavod Rambam denigrated in this fashion. So it happens that this particular personality was known as a world-renowned expert in debate. Nobody ever bested him when it came to a debate. I didn't care. I have to stand up for the Rambam. So I said, on the contrary, the Rambam was a tremendous success. The Rambam intended to provide for a perfect encapsulation of the halacha. Nobody in any major yeshiva all over the universe learns a sugya in Torah Sheba'al Peh without analyzing and dissecting and seeking to understand the words of the Rambam, you don't get anywhere in the study of Torah Shebaal Peh without internalizing the words of the Rambam. And of course, you use all of the other sources as well, but the Rambam is always central to the discussion. So this person listened to what I had to say, this Harvard professor, and he said, you're right, I can see the point. So, Baruch Hashem. I don't consider myself as having won the debate. The Rambam won the debate. What the Rambam did, in terms of summarizing all of the halachos you find in the Mishnah Torah, not just halacha. People think that it's the work of halacha. You find it starts off with Yesodei HaTorah. It gives you all of the major hashkafas. In addition to that, what's not so well known is that the Rambam also injects a very fair amount of Musar, an extremely detailed accounting of what is the basic moral and ethical outlook of every single Yid in terms of how we approach every single subject at the end of practically every single Sefer. The Rambam gives you a Musar in which the Rambam explains to you what to take away in terms of your own ethical orientation. So I wanted to just briefly read what the Rambam has to say, since we read yesterday in Shul, Parashas Shavua, we read the Tazriya Mitzorah, all about the laws of Mitzorah. The Rambam goes on for 16 chapters, a lot of esoteric, nuanced laws relating to a Mitzorah. And we know as the Rambam affirms that the affliction of a mitzvah take away Musar Hakhel from all of this, to remember what happened to Miriam, etc. And he says, if you want to set your path straight in this world, what you need to do is you should stay away from hanging out with Rishoyim, with those who are wicked, with those who are a lower class, shall we say. People who are not oriented towards Torah and mitzvos and growth, with Dabri Mayim. Don't hang out with fools or with those who are wasting their time. So you shouldn't be snared in their net and in their web of wickedness and of foolishness. Pasuk, it says that they've set their mouth against heaven, their tongues walk through the earth. That which causes a person to set their mouths against heaven is the fact that they're careless regarding how they speak in this world. And this is, he says, those who hang out on street corners when they should be learning in yeshiva, they should be in Seder, in Beis Medrash. You have gatherings of people not to celebrate the Siyum Harambam, but Vachman al-Itzlan, they'll have a party for a sporting event. Yeshivat Batei Mishtot and Mishosei Sheikha, and people who are just getting drunk and engaging in idle chatter as they're getting drunk. This is what, says the Rambam, we learn from Hilchos Mitzorah, Tumas Tzaras, what we have to refrain from. But the Rambam doesn't stop there. You would figure that, okay, this is the ethical orientation of what we pick up, what we're supposed to pick up, and what we're supposed to derive from the laws of Tazriya Mitzorah, of Tumas Taras Mitzorah. So we're supposed to derive that we stay away from the people who waste their time with idle chatter. But the Rambam adds another dimension. And the Rambam was very, very careful with his words. He says, Abal, Sichas Kasher Yisrael, Eina Ela B'divrei Torah. Like we know, the Medrash in this week's parasha, that the person who is the peddler was telling people, Man Ba'ichai, you want to know the magical potion to live, so it's Nitzor Lashon Chameira, but Sor Meira V'asei Tov. You have to stay away from the bad, from the idle chatter, but you have to pursue the good speech. That's also an important, pivotal part, says the Rambam, of the laws of Tzaras, is learning that you're supposed to use your speech for good. What does it mean to use your speech for good? He says this, that it has to be for the purpose of Torah v'Chachmas, the famous comment of the Kli Yakar. Why do you use the Mitzorah when he's going for his purification? He brings two birds. A tzipor hashchuta, one tzipor, one little bird, it gets slaughtered, and the other bird is the tzipor hachaya, who gets sent away. The tziporim we know are known for, but there's also such a thing as good speech. It says echad aser, there's bad speech, echad mitzvah bo. But then there's speech which is not just permissible speech. It's obligatory speech. It's sacred speech. That's the speech of Torah. That's the speech of Tefillah. That's the speech of Chochmah. That is the speech that the Rambam is emphasizing that we are supposed to understand is the whole purpose of learning the laws of Tsaras. It's because a person used their language the wrong way, but there's also a right way that you're supposed to use their language. Today, we are celebrating this important point of the Rambam that we're using our Koach HaDibur. We're getting together to have a Knessia, not a Amei Haaretz, but a Knessia, a gathering of Talmidei Chachamim, a gathering of those who strive to learn Torah, to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to connect to words of Torah, B'Chachma, to be able to rise up to higher levels of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to build up our neshama, to be the neshama that it's supposed to be in the service of Hashem in terms of celebrating Torah. And that's exactly what the Siyum of the teachings of the Rambam is all about. It's celebrating a learning constantly of the entirety of Torah Shebechtav with Torah Sheba'al Peh, to be able to gain a mastery as much as possible of Kol HaTorah Kula. And in this merit, says the Harambam that you get a bracha, you get a blessing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu when you engage in the speech. Particularly, you engage in the speech in conversation with each other, as it says, "Az nidbaru yireh Hashem ish orayeo v'yakshev Hashem v'yishma v'yikasev sefer zikaron lefanav liyireh Hashem v'lechoshvei shemo." The bracha that says that the Rambam lefikach HaKadosh Baruch Hu ozer al yadon u'mizaker osan ba. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a tremendous amount of help, that He gives us a tremendous zechuyos, the ability to reach high levels of virtue and of mitzvah achievement in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And in this merit that we're using our dibur for these purposes, in terms of what we're saying, what we're learning, how we're speaking to each other as well, in terms of the interaction with each other, that it shouldn't be negative, derogatory speech, but Torah and Chachma that uplifts each other, that we listen to each other with great attention. As we uplift each other through words of Torah, we can be misake in the lack of kavod that caused the tragedies that occurred during the Sphira period that we know now today, where according to all the minhagim, we're in the middle of the Sphira, where unfortunately the students of Rabbi Akiva passed away because lo nagu kavod zeh b'zeh. The ultimate kavod is to be able to not only learn Torah, but to share Torah with each other in a way in which we're paying attention to each other and respecting the Torah that is being shared. And in that merit, that we should be zoche to celebrate the next Siyum Harambam b'Yerushalayim Habnuya b'Viyas Kol Tzedek B'Meira V'Yamein.
We're here for the Siyum. That's the ultimate reason for our being here. As Rabbi Ten for the Rambam, as he writes, was that it should be the sefer where each person, he writes, every person should first study the ritual and then know the perishable path from there. However, for hundreds of years, whether due to opposition to his intent, the focus of learning Rambam has been relegated to the very learned to his incredible depth in writing, the nuance and the framing of a halacha, and the juxtaposition of many halachas for halachic purposes and in-depth understanding of Gemara. On Anash.org, Pesach 5744, the Lubavitcher Rebbe came out and said the following: I'd like to make the following suggestions for learning a small section each day. It would be a good idea to initiate a similar cycle dedicated to the study of Rambam's Mishnah Torah, learning a part each day and completing the entire Sefer next year on the Rambam's birthday, Yud Daled Nisan. Thus, the project was launched, being Machzer HaTorah L'Yeshna, thus fulfilling the original intent of the Rambam. I want to thank Chabad.org for all the shiurim that they have on daily Rambam, which everybody can partake of, and the additional shiurim in Rambam L'Iyun, which gives a taste of the in-depth learning in Rambam. Ayashakayach, to some of our alumni who spearheaded many shiurim and siyumim on Rambam and Rambam L'Iyun on the website Rambam.today. Rambam begins with the fundamentals of Yiddishkeit and ends with the goal and aspirations of Yiddishkeit. However, in the Messiah Maschil scenario, it is reversed. Perhaps the message is to be focused on our goal and everything we do, which is to be zeicha to the final words of the Rambam Mishnah Torah, Ki Mola ha'aretz deis Hashem kamayim hayam mechasim, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu now. With that I would like to call upon Rabbi Baruch Hertz to be Messiah, followed by Rabbi Meir Shur of Maskif Maschala Siyum. I would ask that there be nothing in between the Siyum and Haschala, and please leave any singing or anything else until after the Haschala. Thank you.
Harambam, which we finished yesterday, both Gimel Prakim and Perik Echad. V'yisazman lo yisham lo rav lo muchama lo kinu lo sachrus shatoiva tiyah mishpas harbe v'chol amadan mitzuin ka'afa. In that era, Mashiach will be no famine, no war, no empty competition. There'll be abundance of good, and all the delicacies will be available like dust. V'lo ye'esed kol ha'olam kulai elo l'das Hashem levad. The occupation of the entire world will be the knowledge of God. Therefore, the great sages know the hidden matters. The Asigo das Bayram, the Yodim from Astum Asigo das Bayram, Ketir Koycha Adam, Shenema Kimola Haaretz Deos Hashem Kamayim Yom Chasim. The great people, they will grasp the knowledge of God to the full extent of human potential. As he says in Yeshayahu, the world will be filled with the knowledge of God as the waters cover the ocean bed. With that, we are Messiah the Rambam. We gathered here today, friends, Rabbanim, Chicago community, our guest speaker, Isha Mesiras Nefesh, Rabbi Shalom Karabashkin, on a very special Maimed. We are Messiah, the Gemara Shel Harambam, the Gemara Shel Torah, a Siyum of the Rambam, which encompasses the whole Torah. It's Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence, that this Siyum falls out in Iyar. Iyar is a very unique month. On one hand, Iyar seemingly has no Yom Tov. Iyar is regular. Iyar seems like mundane, but yet every single day is a Yom Tov. Usfartem lachem, you count each day. Usfartem eloshen sapir, you illuminate each day. And when a person counts each day, wait. I think the Rambam idea is the same thing. On one hand, every single day you learn whether it's Gimel Prakim or Perik Echad, and it seems like a daily exercise, which makes the day so special and so godly and so holy, and it's a day of Limud HaTorah. But the greater gain even is when you finish day by day, week by week, month by month, and then when it comes to the end of the year or 3 years, you suddenly have got to reach a whole new level, a whole new Maimad Matzav of finishing the Hilchas HaTorah, the whole 613 of halachas in Torah, an amazing accomplishment. And Mazel Tov to everyone who's done it, or mishtatif to do it, or plans to do it. It's a very special thing. You know, the Rambam, throughout history, and continuing what Rabbi Rees said, Chas v'Shalom was a major success. Throughout history, in every yeshiva, in every community, Ashkenazim, Sephardim, Yemen, wherever there was, we learned Rambam. Rambam is a sefer which has been from Moshe ad Moshe lakam k'Moshe. Yet the daily learning, even though I can say it was brought in Sephardim, the Shalah says, Shalah HaKadosh says that you shall learn every day some Rambam. The Maggid of Mezrich told some of his students, Chavraya Kadisha, they should learn Rambam. But to learn it as official limud yom yom was not done in Klal Yisrael. This is the beginning of the 40th year, as mentioned, as Prosti mentioned, where the Rebbe introduced the limud Harambam to the whole world. And said, it's a unique learning. Also unites Klal Yisrael. It's for men, women, children, boys and girls. Everybody, time, space, and people. An unbelievable Inyan of Achdus. And at that time, the Rebbe attributed to the Rambam many brachos, blessings that a person can get. I want to just this year mention one bracha connected to the Rambam, which is on people's mind. The bracha of health, refuah. And the reason is because the Siyum and Aschala begins in the beginning of Iyar. And we know the Iyar is Ani Hashem Rifa'echa, I am Hashem Yehila. The Gemara in Bava Metzia brings down that the word machla is the gematria of 83. In Sfarim HaKadoshim, in the holy books, it mentions that 83 is the idea of 83 is a very special number. There are 83 sections in the Rambam. And those 83 take away sickness. The Rambam also lived, according to most opinions, if you calculate it, 70 years minus 83 days. His birthday, he passed away, Chav Tevis, his birthday, Erev Pesach, 83 days. 83 mechapa on the 83 chalayim in the world of refuah. And we know the Rambam was a doctor. And there was, to mention this point, in the Yechidus, there was an audience with the Rebbe, and the Pnei Menachem, later the Ger Rebbe, and they spoke a few hours. And the discussion involved that the Rambam mentions many men spiritually healed. So, in this year, which is also Tafshin Pei Gimel, 5783, again, 83, the idea of 83, it's again the Inyan of Pei Gimel. Just to share a small story, I know in 1980 birthday, and he asked about kosher request for people to go and daven by the Rambam's kever. And at that night, when the Seder, when he was handing down the night before the Seder, people said it looked like the pain went away. The koyach of the Rambam to heal refuah should be a bracha. The many brachas we do, but one of them, there should be not everyone who needs a refuah. We know in the Chazal it says that Abraham Shinin come adai to the Rabbi. On 40 years, you reach a new understanding, a new seichel, a teacher. I want to encourage. First of all, it was very inspiring. A few people told me today that they are joining this project of Limud Harambam, which adds more chiyas and more chizot in learning Rambam. So and even if you can't join everything, you can participate in some way, but to take on this Limud Harambam. And for those who are learning Rambam, to add better in Rambam, to learn it more be'iyun, to learn it more in a way of depth, to add chavrusa learning, to create more an excitement in this beautiful project of Limud Harambam. On this a special day, which is the birthday of the fourth Chabad Rebbe, who said, "Go lachatchila riba," which means take the leap above. Let us go lachatchila riba and learn these Harambam, the deis, these.
We came here to celebrate the 42nd Siyum, completion of the 3 chapters a day. We don't stop there. Completion, but it's a haschala. We begin again Torah Kol HaTorah Kul, the Rambam's book of Mishnah. In other words, that Hashem is there, is an essential. To understand this concept, since we you learned the Rambam that when the time of Mashiach, Lefichach Yisrael Chachamim Gedolim, the Yidden will be scholars v'yodim. They will know. Concludes with the part it's Deas to know and reach to the will be open and clear with the coming of Mashiach.
began Harambam once again. Years ago, 2008, when my dear uncle, the very chashuv of Shalom Mordechai Rubashkin, was faced with a tremendous eis tzara, a great peril. And Klal Yisrael, the world over, Rav Zev Cohen spoke, when he was, as he calls it, in a place called prison, and I had the schus of visiting him many times there. One of the things, before I would come, I would call find there something I could bring. A number of times it was the next Sefer in Rambam. Because I finished the last one, it's time for the next Sefer in Rambam. And I remember distinctly one time I brought him a Rambam. The last one, it's time for the next Sefer in Rambam. And I remember distinctly one time I brought him a Rambam. It was a Malchus pamphlet.
And halacha, halacha, have a discussion. Halacha means this is the way, this is the Ratzon Hashem, the words of you. There's not, in other words, you learn Gemara, you learn what's the svara from this. Went through on the same eight the 5 minutes I have over here with you. Give it over. You'll see that a lot of people are traumatized by the deployment. I'm not here to talk about any miles or anything, but how does it happen? I can talk to you all this. If you will, which is a trauma. Everything is trauma today. You get pissed up on the highway with trauma. You're staying for a cup of coffee, cut you off, invite the trauma. Somebody doesn't know you today. I exchange the word. Also, trauma carefully used, not because the aside of everything. If you don't have a foundation, you don't have a building. And the aside of our lives has to be later. We have to know we have an Eibishter. And everything in this world, including our life, on a very practical level, is because the Eibishter wanted so. If the Eibishter wanted so, there's nothing traumatic about anything. Avraham Avinu was not traumatized when he was thrown into the fire. He wasn't traumatized to be born to a father like Terach. I always wondered, what happens if Avraham Avinu was born to Noach? What a nicer life. Hashem Idole, Tzadik Tomim. Imagine if Avraham Avinu would have been born to Noach. How could have a parent like Terach? An abusing guy. He broke a few of his dolls. I'm sure you understand. And threw him into the fire. Yeah. But he wouldn't be Avraham Avinu if he wasn't. If I can't, Avraham Avinu is only because he went through a Terach. You say this, the aside of our lives. You have to start with. We build a life around everything. We have emotions, and we build a ganze binyan. If you don't have you say this. If you don't say this, it says the Rambam. Before I teach you anything about anything, I have to tell you need the aside in your life. That's a munah. The Mela, starting over the first time, I'd like to start from my story with the Ness. It was Zion. It was Zion, the seventh Lichtel Chanukah, and it was actually based Aleph Tavis. And I was in this little tiny cell. The cell is like 6 feet by 8 feet. A little tiny thing I had to share with somebody else. Or he was sharing with me. I'm not sure who was sharing with who. And I was always hoping to go home. And I get an announcement. I got to go pick up a piece of mail. I got a piece of mail, and I opened the mail up, and it's a letter from the court. And the court is telling me your case is closed. This is after 8.5 years of motions back and forth and finding out in Yonim. So I don't go into the legal side of the whole thing, but there were times you thought that it was legal. The kid said, they told me the case is closed and you're staying here for another 18.5 years. I mean, that's what they meant to say. There's nothing to do about it. There's no ascana we can call, there's no lawyers you can call. Case closed. Again, the thing of 27 stands. I was reading this letter and I saw what happened to many people in the years I was there. I saw people getting letters like this, and I saw that if people fall into depression, they fall down. For the whole time, he was hoping, maybe something happened with some change of mind, and here the finality of it. But I'm a Yid, and I remember myself I was like, holding myself strong not to fall into what I saw other people fall in depression, and I remembered everything that I learned, and that's where learning comes in. If you don't learn, if you don't have the only way you have mice is if you have machshav and dibur before. You have to learn to understand. So I learned, it says a prosecutor, that explains, Hashlach Hashem Yehovchu Yichak Alacha. Throw on the Eibishter your package and he will sustain you. Why did it say Yichak Alacha? Very briefly, Yichak Alacha has the words Keli in there. It could have said Hashlach Hashem Yehovchu. If you have a problem, the Eibishter tells you, throw it on the Eibishter, and he will sustain you. Yichak Alacha means sustain. Sustain from Kalkola, not every problem is kalkola. So why is it the Torah choose to use the word chakalacha? So explains that because the word chakalacha has the word keli in there. Yud chof lamed. Yud chof lamed means keli. Throw on the pack. So what does it mean? When a person needs something, the Eibishter wants us to work. The Eibishter wants to do shtalas and make a keli. What happens if a person is so good? If you can make a keli, you go to work, you make money, you do it. If you go to a doctor, and the doctor says he has a refuah for you, so you get the refuah. What happens if Chas v'sholom you go to a doctor? And he says, that's not a refuah for you. Or you don't have to go to work. So a person can think, the rational mind will think, because he has nothing what to do, is that right, he can't get help. Dr. David should put fakert. When you're in any situation you are, throw your problem to the Eibishter, and he'll make the keli for you also. That's what it means. So a Yid knows that even when he makes the money, it's not the works making him the money. When he's learning Torah, it's not his seichel learning Torah. They just helping him understand the Gemara. When a person goes in that derech, so if he gets into a matzav where he can't make a keli, so then he doesn't get lost. And I grabbed myself and I said to myself, all the shtadas I didn't because I thought that I'm doing shtadas. No, I will do the Eibishter once. My mama said it verbally, said Eibishter, now that I can't do any shtadas, is now fakir, you'll do a better job than me. And the amazing thing is like this. This is not something, I think every person shaykhs to this. There's nothing special over it. When I talk about it, I don't think anything special. Because we all have a neshama, we all have the mitzvah of Amunah, the Eibishter holds every one of our hands. We have to want to be held by him. I walked away from this letter, I threw the letter in the locker, but the thing is davening. That night was the 8th day of Hanukkah, and I lit the Hanukkah menorah, and I focused on the words, and I was advancing very much in the chapel, until the point where all my friends told me to shut up. I didn't stop singing on the Sachar. I did not fall into depression. I was locked into the cell that night. And the pella is, I got up in the morning. I get up every morning at 4:30 and say the whole Tehillim. I said for years and years and years, I say the whole Tehillim every single day. I make a joke about it. I didn't know which capital is a gula for getting out of prison, so I said the whole Tehillim. So I got it. But in Emerson there's a special gula that say that never says if somebody's sick, you say the whole Tehillim without have 6 hours to get up early in the morning, 4:30, say the whole Tehillim, so nobody should bother me. I said the whole Tehillim. I did. Next morning, I got up 4:30 in the morning again. And why? Because for 8 years, I was learning over and over and over, thinking and later that emunah means whatever happened to me until now is gamzul table. If you wake up in the morning, whatever matzav you are, you don't wish you were somewhere else exactly which they want you to be. And the proof for that is that's where you are. But together with that, it's not depressing, because David still wants you to have a tachum that you're going to be helped. David will help you out of it. So get out of bed, daven to the Eibishter, and that's what I did. I got out of bed, it's hard to talk to Shamat, what are you getting up for? So I said, I'm going to, he said, you have a letter yesterday that you're stuck here. So I said, no, I'm not stuck, David will free me. I got out of bed, I said, don't tell him. And that's the day. Base Tavis, I didn't know what was going on the other side. I got to know what I was doing on this side. 6 minutes before Shkia, the door swings open. They lock in that place. They lock everybody into prison in the cells to make inventory. They do inventory every single day on the product, on the what the business people are laughing. Some people do inventory every week or some every month. They make inventory. They go around every single cell and they look to see if the guys are there or not there. And they locked us in. And they took a look. And then it was this Chanukah. I made a little stick of soda, matzah and tuna fish. And they got quiet. They hear the door key come. The guy walks into the door. Opens the door. I told her, "Bash can get out." The sweetest words I heard in all my life. I'm davening David to free me, and the guy says, "Get out." So I'm going home. So I asked this wise guy, so where am I going? He wouldn't tell me. He says, they're changing your location. He wouldn't tell me. And this guy wasn't a bad guy. This guy, he always used to greet me with a good Shabbos. This was a Mr. Good Shabbos guy. Because one time, they wanted 27 years, they put me in a very high security place. murderers, gangsters. There was people, very tough people there. And the nest is, I never got hurt from them. Never. I got hurt from guards. Guards beat me up because they don't want to wear my yarmulke. I was making the calculations of the mitzvahs. I calculated. I wouldn't leave with my yarmulke. So they beat me up. Over here in Iowa, in Waterloo. I hacked the baby that I was in the hospital for a week. Yeah, so it happened 2 times. One in South Dakota, but the gangsters, the murderers, never. I forget they had a special coverage for me, and the pella is that this guy has me scared. I used to say I want to live. I scared myself walking outside. Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. So he has good Shabbos. I don't know what it means. He calls me over and threatens me. Hey, what are you saying? Words I don't understand. I say, hey, it's another dimension. You're making a plan to break out of jail tonight. That's the type of mentality that's going on there. So I started laughing. Breaking out. I'm not breaking out the moment I go out to the front door, God willing. Number 1. Number 2, Good Shabbos is a greeting. But since then, this guy used to always call me Good Shabbos. Keeping Shabbos was there. He used to see me the Tuesday. You see me the Tuesday, Good Shabbos, Wednesday, Good Shabbos. Right. So this, from all the people that the Eibishter used to get me out of prison was Mr. Good Shabbos. This guy, he tells me, you're leaving. So I was, he wouldn't tell me. I thought maybe the transfer. I grabbed my thousand film. They brought me to the room. The warden walks in and the sister walks in, and they looking at me with the mamish days. You can see on them they're very surprised about something. I was waiting very carefully what's going on. Finally, give me sort of teva. Congratulations, Mr. Rabashkin, the president, the Donald J. Trump. I was make a bracha here. They should bench him. He should get back what they stole from him. I'm sure, okay. L'chaim. And he, Shara B'Tachon, it says, I'll tell you this, you can look it up, and this is Perek Dalet, you can look over, it says the Eibishter does his nisim, does his things through people that are good people. So, Hosta, he just signed a commentation, you're free man to go home. I stood there, and I got to tell you something, I was waiting, I was hoping for this moment every day. I woke up every day, I lived with it. I lived with it. Why did I live with it? I'm not a wise guy. I like a good laugh, but I'm a very serious guy. I'm serious. And I'm not a wise guy. And these things, nervous. And state in Teire, stay halachas. Do you have to have betochen? This is how you're supposed to think. This is how they. So at least you go. And I saw this in Sfarim later. When you live your days with betochen, then you live in your day the way they want you to live. When you're davening. There's 2 parts of davening. One part of davening is davening, the Eibishter, acknowledging the Eibishter is the one that does everything and you ask him for what you need. And the second part of davening is getting your answer. So the Eibishter will answer you, the Eibishter will give you what you want. Sometimes the day earlier than another time. So when you live with B'tachon, you're living your day the Eibishter wants. That's the halacha. I did that. And Baruch Hashem, so I was wondering when I got the good news that I'm free, it's no surprise, right? So will I feel that I ruined it for myself, So I tell you what I felt like. You never hear, you can tell a guy, surprise! And the guy says, I'm so surprised, I don't believe it happened. So this is what happens, when you don't believe you have a tongue, and you get what you want, I'm so surprised, I never believed it. It's like I don't believe it, and you get what you want from the Eibishter, and you move on. When you have a tongue, the Eibishter is going to help you. When you live with the Eibishter, you get close to the Eibishter, is going to help you. And then you see Yeshua, you feel the closest to the Eibishter that can't be described. Because that's what you were waiting for. So what I feel, I said, Mamish, wow, you did it. Mamish did it. I'm free. Mamish was such a feeling. And the problem is, I didn't tell you, I was in the middle of eating, and this Mr. B'Chavez kicked me out. And I chapsich that I forgot the bench. I forgot the bench. And I'll show you a few stories. I made it. What's betochen? Betochen says Shai betochen. Betochen means that B'teich Hashem does everything the Ratzon Hashem. That's what's important to know what Ratzon Hashem is. So B'teich Hashem does the will of Hashem whenever you can. So I try to always do what the Eibishter wanted, and never said to myself, because I'm in a place called prison, I can't do it. What's the difference where you are? You have to do Ratzon Hashem. If the Eibishter put you here, it means you can do it here too. So. In this matter, I told the warden, you should know that there's a big miracle, and that's Hanukkah, and it's a big miracle, and then I forgot to make a bracha achrona. We were supposed to make a bracha achrona, and we were late. So I wasn't a wise guy. So I told the warden, by the way, before I leave, I got to go back for a few minutes, not too long, I just make a bracha achrona. She looks at me, where are you going? So I said, I have to go back. So she says, he looks at me like, I'm sure you're not going back. And so I said, you have to bench here. I said, okay, I asked her to bring me my machinim, and she brought me my machinim. The grace of Chalaka Warden, she went to the water fountain, she got me my machinim, and I benched, and I said, Alisim. And I came out, I never imagined the simcha that the Eibusha showed, Klal Yisrael, the awakening, is obviously something way beyond myself, way beyond. I never imagined, I thought I'd go home, gain some mail, and daven, thank the Eibusha, and then move on. And as I came out, I was living in the Muncie, outside, I come outside, I never saw my house before, my family moved there, thousands of people outside. I went from seeing how they sing a yid to seeing thousands of people. Everyone over wanted to say Shalom Aleichem, and then I go to my parents' house in Borough Park, and there's like 12,000 people, 12 o'clock at night, waiting outside. Yeah, you see the pictures, it was about half of a fella. I went to 770, there was a coffers over there. We got a night of 1 o'clock, and we danced the whole night. Mama's like a coffers. It was the Eibusha. Why? Because every kid's soul. There's this what we always talked about, we learned about. We see you can be a yid stuck in a place called prison, and everybody thinks it's over. He's stuck at Achmonas. He tried so hard. We tried that. And Eibusha revealed that and Eibusha 1 second, boom, and I'm free. And this is, what do you do with this? What you don't do with this, you're supposed to strengthen yourself, and you're supposed to be mechazek yourself in the munah b'tochen as a yesaidus of Torah mitzvahs. But it's only, a yesaid is the foundation. And if I may say, if you build a building without a foundation, you may build a beautiful building, but the building is not going to survive. Right? If you build as a building, so I want, by way of story, I want to share with you a few stories I lived through. Not so much for the story aspect, I'll shorten them up. I also want to share with you the way I was able to overcome the Nisayan, and hopefully you can learn something from it. And I'll start off where it first started. It started in a place called South Dakota. South Dakota is on the left side of Chicago, a little bit north of the gate. Somebody in Taka drove up there, they said, thank you, they came with the Ganze Van, Perlstein came, they was mechazik me, and it happened. What happened? The Eibusha wanted to happen. So in South Dakota, after they threw the normally when a person, even if the jury says guilty, they don't find nothing, but they say guilty, and instead of giving me bail, they threw me into jail. Now, so I want to share with you how I went through 3 Nisayanos that night, and the purpose of sharing the story is to show that even at times when we go through in life things that we don't understand why, and we would have rather gone a different way. I'm looking back now, but I didn't. I was just trying to do what David wanted me to do. But looking back, I can remember see that every step of the way, Hashem was teaching me something. Actually, in Shai B'Chinda, he says, a child, all listen to this. In Shai B'Chinda, listen to this. A child will go through painful experiences. He'll go through illnesses to teach him the real aspect of the world, that there's bad in the world, there's germs in the world, there's Yetzer Hara in the world, there's Ra in the world. You have to be careful for it. Because if a person would not go through difficult situations, a child won't go through, he'll think the world is a fairyland and he'll become a behemoth. We look at the world and we think, if a child lived through a situation, we had no problems, he had the best parents, he never had a bully in the class, he never fell off his bike, he never encountered a problem, he would be much better off. Every challenge you have is to teach you something. Bring us something. Listen to this. So I walked. They shoved me into this place called prison in South Dakota. Now, the chains, the hands, the feet. And I started how long, and I was hoping to be free. I was hoping to win the case, and I thought I would with Shas Maisa. And they didn't want it that way. I shoved me off to a prison. So I wanted my space. I wanted to show me my space. I wanted to sit down. I want to rethink this thing and what I do weiter. How do I? It was 10 o'clock at night. It was late. And but Eibusha knew that if he would do that, I wouldn't be standing here today. So what happens? They slapped me into, after a bunch of different steps, they finally slapped me into a room, and the guard walks in with the ganze pack of clothes over there, and I'm supposed to change over from civilian clothes, Yiddish clothes, to prison clothes. And to talk about clothes, I always like to put these other side things in, because Baruch Hashem, I love Chassidus, and Baruch Hashem, I understand Keches HaNefesh, and I was always looking how they work this thing, and how they help you. How do you take a free person and turn him into a prisoner? How do you take a free person that makes his own decisions, and suddenly it's yes, sir, and he stands up and sits down as a, what they call institutionalized. How do you do that? The first thing, it's a step, it's not one thing, but the first thing they do is they change your clothes. They put on different clothes. If you talk about the Vushi Shabbos, I always like to bring some of Navidas Hashem. We wear payas, we wear yarmulke, we wear a hat in the street. When we wear daven, we put on a jacket. That's a big deal. What's the difference? That shirt, it makes a difference. And if you want to know how much it makes a difference, ask the prison warden. He'll tell you. The first thing they do to you to get you to feel what the situation is, they make you change over. They don't whip you. They don't torture you. They put you on clothes of a prisoner. I got to put on this, the Purim clothes. I always had to make up celebrity. So I thought to myself, okay, let's put them all year round. Put them clothes. So that's not going to define me. So, but as I'm taking off my shirt, the chapsich was in my tzitzis. This is a love at night. So I was sure in America, land of the freedom, home of the free, land of the free, home of the brave. And my mice is a little different. So I say to him, I can wear my tzitzis. He says, nope, this shall be ungefähr in the chazir. I was standing over there. And he tells me, nope. I was a little shocked. And I was a little bit concerned. So I say to him, maybe you have yarmulke? He says, nothing. It's all going to the box. So I said, listen, mister, you don't understand. I'm a Jewish man. If you didn't figure this out, I'm a Jewish people wear yarmulke and tzitzis. If you don't believe me, look and call Jewish law. I gave a nice speech. I was talking with Siyum, give me a handsome nice yarmulke and tzitzis. If you don't believe me, call it Jewish law. And I need to have it because I told him, a Jewish man can't walk 4 steps like yarmulke and tzitzis. And if you take it away from me, I know you can take it away from me before, but if you do that, you should know I'll be stuck in one place, I won't be able to walk, and that's it. I didn't have it. Ich habe gemeint, sagt mit der Speech, so sicher, sure, wear it, guck to him upon him, listen to it, look close to me, he looks me in the face, I'll never forget this is one of those awakening moments, and he tells me, listen buddy, he got very friendly very fast, listen, but a lot of things are going to change for you tonight. Now this is in a room alone, very imposing, you read the letters from the Rebbe, what these rooms look like, and where did I get the keches from? From the Eibishter. I never imagined myself have such keches. He looks, he says, but what did he tell me? He woke me up, because he tells me, I'm going to change you. A lot of things will change for you. He tells me, and I look at him, and I'm not just in danger here, physical. He wants to change me. He wants to make me a goy. Take off my yarmulke, take off my tzitzis, and put me as a bunch of goyim, and then what? Aber ich hab gesagt, das nicht. I'm a goy, nicht, bleib bei Yid. So I told him, I'm sorry, I can't do it, ich do es nicht. To describe the keches it took. Now, let's stop over here for a second. If Chas v'Sholem, I would have said, you know what, tomorrow for my lawyer, yes, Chushtayin would say, and I would have taken him yarmulke and tzitzis and give it to them. And a lot of rabbis here, I can tell you, Rabbi was talking about mitzvahs that are bonon. I probably used them from yarmulke. I would have become a prisoner. The freedom that I got was because I let my neshama, when it says in Tanya, it says, when a goy tells a yid to leave the Beit Zorah, because he wants to be menatik him from the Eibishter, the yid suddenly finds keich in him, then he won't do it. I'm surprised at myself. I'm an American boy, born in Borough Park. I grew up on Pizza and Falafel on 13th Avenue. Whatever. I'm not this Russian. My father was in Russia, busy fighting this communist. I'm an American kid. Where did it come to such keches? I'm telling you from where. Because he touched my neshama. Use it on yourself and use it on your children. Talk to the neshama. Get the neshama going. So there was nobody to touch my neshama. The Eibishter made this guy touch my neshama, and the guy tells me, I'm going to change you. And I heard what he said. In the whole, I was in a fog, and the whole fog suddenly lifted, and I became very clear, and I was a little down. I was like listless. I was mit the hands off. I had a hand. Give me my space, I thought. And the Eibishter says, no, I'm going to wake you up. And he woke me up. I felt energized, and I got the cake, and I told him I can't do it. I told him I can't do it. Now he became a little so great. So the first lesson I learned that night is, don't change. Be who you are. And I want to say something. We talk a whole time about children's self-confidence. There's nothing more degrading than a place called prison. Besides the inhibitions, there's person degrading. Bush is hard for a person slapping you around. This guy couldn't flip burgers at McDonald's for $5 an hour in those days. And he's telling me, stand, sit, slap, hey. You're in a place where you make you into a nobody. They were to try to. But you can't do that to a Yid who lives with his neshama. That's what I'm trying to teach you. If you understand, teach your children that Baruch Hashem, I've committed. See yourself as a Ben Melech. See yourself as a Ben Kel Chai. See yourself as somebody who's a Ben Rizkel Yaakov. See yourself with the whole Shalshalas of Matan Torah. Who's going to abuse you? Who's going to knock you down? They can't knock you down because you're a Yid. Wherever you are. But you have to want to be connected to the Eibishter. How you connect to the Eibishter? Torah mitzvahs. As I was holding on, I was holding with Tamiyam V'Tzitzis, I wanted to be connected. So I'm not taking it off. So this guy lost himself. I guess they didn't tell him what you do in a situation like this, where a guy comes in and doesn't have this. So he tells me, okay, he stops me in another room, and he locks me into this cage. And eventually I stuck. It was a cold night. I couldn't sit down because everybody thinks in terms of sit down. You think about a chair, a nice room, light. It's a prison. There's no chairs. It's cement. And there's no mats on the cement. So I said, a cold piece of cement. So we're standing. And I'm waiting, and that's probably part of the drill. And finally the sergeant walks in, the guy with the 2 stripes on the shoulders, there's a Hakhel mensch. And he wants to know, why I'm making trouble. So I'm not making trouble, I gave him the whole thing, I'm a Jew, and I can't walk without it. I need Tzitzis. So he says to me, okay, good, I'll check it out with a rabbi. I'm hearing checking a rabbi. This is South Dakota. Even if you're talking about a conservative rabbi, conservative, reform, everybody knows Yavka Tzitzis is a Jewish thing. Medinas HaChesed, America, in no time I'm getting it back, it'll be good. He comes back in with a piece of paper. This part of the story is most divine. In South Dakota, he wants a piece of paper, and he gives me a whole speech. He tells me, the rabbi just sent me an email, and he tells me these words. And he starts reading from the paper. And the rabbi is telling me, you should know you're in prison, as if I didn't know, Ishkeach. And in prison, I thought the rabbi would start off with I'm sorry to hear you. That they got a terrorist, sure. The guy is a Jewish guy, and you're in prison, and the guards are your boss. Oh wow, this is going the wrong way. And if they tell you you got to take your Tzitzis, you have to listen to them, and he spells it out. You got to take off your Tzitzis and give it to them. He's a rabbi, and he speaks English. This guy, and he's reading it in English. And you got to take it off, give it to the rabbi, because it says in the Gemara, "Dinah the Malchusa Dinah." Bam bam. I'm standing behind it. This is a conversation between bars. There's bars in between me and him. I was shocked. I remember so shocked. And the dinner thing was even more shocking. That means this guy was talking to me. Not only is a manuvel, but so the first thing I say, I had to first rationalize my own mind why it doesn't apply. Right? I can't talk a So I remember the story, and I wanted to bring the Rayatz. I wanted to bring him into my parents come from Russia, so I brought. So I asked him, you know what Din Dina means? He says, no. I'm just reading from a piece of paper. So I'll tell you, I'm a rabbi, I tell you what it means. It means like this. And every Jew has a body and a soul, and the soul never went into Golus. It was a great rabbi, I tell them, the Rayatz, the 6th Lavacher Rebbe, and he was 1927 in prison. They threw him in prison, wanted to kill him, and miraculously he got out. The communists wanted to kill him. I got answer my son, he's sitting and listening to the whole story. And the rabbi said that and the Shama never went into Golus. So I got pushed into this whole conversation. Imagine that we got thrown into prison. I don't know if I'll come up with the story. I got pushed into a story about the Guf and the Shama, and I remember in Yeshiva learning this Maisa, and I remember asking myself, what do you mean that the Shama never went to Golus? Did the Shama maybe never went to Golus, but the Shama is in the Guf, you hope, right? If the Shama goes one way, and the Guf goes the other way, you're finished, right? So the Neshama is in the Guf, and you made that the Guf is in Golus, so what does it help you if the Neshama is not in Golus? And for the Rebbe, when you live with your Neshama, you're taking up in Golus. How you live with your Neshama? The Torah mitzvahs. How was it that's why I got the idea. I'm in a place called prison, so I told him, listen, if you want me to stand, sit, whatever you want, I'll do. But when it comes to kosher, when it comes to that, that's my soul thing. The soul thing is not in prison, and you got to give it to me. I'm not sure exactly if it was my speech. It was like 8 minutes. I had to get up and get up and get up. To his credit, he was listening very carefully. I can't believe he understood a word I was saying. I was talking to myself more than I was talking to him. I was getting myself charged up. But at the end, I told him, please go back and ask the rabbi again. Pili ployim, he asks. He said, I'll check it out again. Now, prison is not the yeshiva. You don't, I'm sorry. They tell you what to do, and that's it. If not, they throw you into the solitary confinement. The pella is, he went to find that again. And he comes back, okay, I got an answer for you. And he said, this behemoth tells me, okay, I can keep one of them, either the yarmulke or the tzitzis. Yeah, this is a pili ployim. So at first I thought, I started arguing, you see, before he said nothing, and now he said something, he made the mixes, the chaybet. I said, yeah. I said, but the guy didn't have the whole Lerech over here. And he tells me, listen, Reb Ashken, if you're going to listen to me, I'm going to let you out with these guys. And if not, I'm throwing you into solitary confinement. There's no truth. Speed up the story a little fast. I learned the second thing. I said, I told him, Mister, I can't take off my hammer against this. I need to have it, and that's it. By now I was already in high gear. I'm not doing it. Let heaven stand on earth. What are they going to do? What are they going to do? I found out what they're going to do. 5 guys came in. 5 is a festa chevra. They're all wearing riot gear, and as if I'm going to beat them up. I just one guy, and they came in with the helmet, with the face mask. And I don't mean the COVID face mask. I mean as a mask. And they came in. They wanted and body armor. They came in. I said, guys, there's no fighting over here. I'm not fighting you. And they started laughing because you have to be on the simchas. I wanted to calm it down. But they said, take off your yarmulke. I said, I'm not taking it off. So they took it off. I said, get up and move. I said, I'm not moving. I can't. The talk is again. So this guy disappears. The sergeant disappears. And he comes back with a wheelchair. And I figured out, and they picked me up, put me in the wheelchair, and I got a free ride all the way to the shul. And that's it. Now, this is the third part of the insight. This is the Ibn Levenish from 5-6 hours. I'm sorry for making it so long, but I want to bring out the Nekudas. I learned over here the second Nekuda that will help me for the next 8.5 years. What this Nisoyan brought out by me was I can be in a place called prison, but I'm not in prison. Depends how you want to understand yourself. If you see yourself as a goof, a gashmi, then you're physically in prison, they're soul in prison. I saw it later. I saw guys watching the screens and eating all the food and trying to find some semblance of civility in the place called prison. And they were always sad, depressed. For good reason they were sad, but they couldn't get themselves out of the break. They couldn't pick themselves up. Torah teaches us, how do you pick yourself up? The famous story of Mele Bashan, if you tie yourself to above, you don't fall down. How do you tie yourself to above? Learn a little bit every single day. I spent the Harambam every single day. At 3 prakim a day. I did before also. Every time I sat down to learn Harambam, I was to get the Sarabam there, Dafayemi also. I was learning all day, Baruch Hashem. But this is a limud that brought out everything in halachas, and it picked me up. And I didn't feel the pain. As the Rebbe says, if you do neshama, that in golos, what's the key? The key is live with your neshama. Listen to this carefully. Do a mitzvah. Connect with Eibishter, and you'll see physically, you'll feel better. You know, years later, Baruch Hashem, I told you how to nurse, and I got freed. And I was taken freed, but a lot of my friends stayed behind. So a few days later, one of them calls up my wife and tells her, they couldn't call me directly because I wasn't supposed to talk to me, so they call my wife. They tell her amazing mitzvahs. He says that he was standing on line for the food, and he hears how one God is asking another God to describe the guy who President Trump just freed. I guess there's a whole over there. So this one God describes me to his friend. And how did he describe me? He says, you know the guy that was always happy? That's the guy. And I did something I was shocked. I saw myself as seriously connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Living with a betachon, upbeat, up to happy. I can promise you I wasn't walking around this emoji smile. I'm shaking the smile, head, clap. A wonderful day in prison today. The simcha came from knowing wherever I am. Emunah. Leida. You say this. Leida. This is a fact. If I found myself in a place called prison, it was for nobody else. They still want to be there. Why would they still want to do this to me? So the first thing, you have to do tshuva. You have to be, but on a deeper level, you see that Eibishter wants something of you. He wants that every Nisayan, every Nisayan is there to bring out that you could, the neshama, 2 points. The neshama is stronger than the darkness. When you say Ein Levada, he says very easily. Ein Levada means that if you're facing something which is darkness and says you can't wear yarmulke and tzitzis, you say I can wear yarmulke and tzitzis. And the proof is because the whole world was created for the Yidden, the whole world was created for Torah and mitzvahs, so the world cannot really, in a true way, stand against me. The world, if a person understands this first halacha, or the first Rashi in Breishis, that the whole world was created for the Yidden to do in Torah, so the world cannot in a real way stand against the Yidden who want to do Torah mitzvahs. Alamai, the world can try to make believe it wants to stop you. So you have to, the whole purpose is for you to bring light into this matzav. I'll tell you a story in a second to bring this out more. So this is the third thing I learned over this. The first thing I learned is don't change. The second thing I learned is that your neshama is not in prison. Din v'chosadin is a mitzvah in Torah. It's a gemara. It's a halacha. But it only applies, don't speed. It says 30 miles an hour, don't speed. It means they don't jaywalk. It means pay your taxes. Whatever it means. It doesn't mean Chashav Michal Shabbos. Doesn't mean if the guy tells you to Michal Shabbos. Doesn't mean the guy tells you to take off your tzitzis. Because in the Shabbos, I goes and I got my yarmulke tzitzis back. But before I got it back, I went through one more level of Gehenna. They threw me into this place called South Confinement, and this was I was in that place. I thought I was really beat up because, I was hoping to win the trial, and they got guilty myself. And now I'm trying to find out my tzitzis. I almost felt that Eibush doesn't want to talk to me. What's tzitzis? And that's the common denominator. My person was told, sorry, why is Eibush not listening to me? What's going on? And I have that all the MS is, you have to look into Torah. Torah is your guide. A quick story, I was here, in the place called Iowa, next door. It's a vast country. There's more Chazedim than the people. And there's a reason for that. And a little more behemoths, a lot of chickens also. But, so they have small planes so I once was on a little plane. My father went to Iowa, and I came there to help him. And I saw that living in Minnesota and driving back and forth wouldn't work. So the first 3 years I lived in Minnesota, then I moved on to Postville, and Baruch Hashem was a community there, and an yeshiva there, not a competition. And the yeshiva is still there, Dafka. So over time, one of the things that Baruch Hashem was successful is by the time the debate happened, there was over 100 families, 120 families living in Iowa. And I was looking, I thought my life was going one way, they just suddenly gave me a different job, a different mission, purpose. Different shlichus. So I was sitting on the plane. I was there for Yom Kippur. I had to get back home faster, and I was sitting next to a pilot. And the pilot is flying this little plane. I'm sitting next to the co-pilot. And next to him is this. And I wanted to understand this dial. I was looking at a bunch of dials turning off. I'm a curious guy. I wanted to figure out what he's doing. So one of the dials there was a little bubble, and the bubble has a little plane. And I noticed as when the plane goes higher, this little plane in the bubble points up, and when the plane goes lower, it goes down. So I asked the guy, Keith, what's this thing? He tells me this is a very, very important gauge. He said, yeah, mamish, the bus does. I told him, I said, latitude and longitude, and what's about horizontal? He tells me, this thing tells me if I'm flying up or if I'm flying down. So I started laughing. He got fat shepherd. He says, why are you laughing? I said, listen, mister, you're sitting in front of a window. You can't look out the window, you see up is there and down is there. What do you need a gauge? Maybe, after they freed me, I was in my brother's house. My brother, she hasn't for 4 shurs. I ran to the mikveh and it started raining. I ran back into the house and I told one of the guests over there, Hakhel, put on a raincoat, it was raining outside. So he whips out his, I didn't see iPhones really, he whips out his iPhone, and he says, he mutters to himself, raining, it was supposed to rain, and he starts looking in the iPhone. You see, you got to go to the prison to catch the, he says, an iPhone to see if it's raining. I said, Haberman, look out the window. Was looks to darten? Look out the window. Was that was happening? Was it's verstanden. The weatherman said, as a doctor should have done, and then he's checking for the vision from the same thing. He said, what are you looking at the gauge for? Look out the window. He says, listen, guy. Now you're flying in good weather. In good weather, you can see. And they act. But what happens if you're flying through a dark cloud? In that cloud, I found out not only you can't see what's up and what's down, and I had such experiences later, but the Abishai created a person that not only he can't see what's up and what's down, actually he's so confused that what he thinks is up is really down. So you see something saying, they're pilots, you know what I'm talking about? So he says, what the guy will do, the pilot, if he wants to go on the senses, if you realize that, he'll think he's flying up, he's really flying down, he'll give him more gas. He thinks he's flying above the cloud, he's really zooming down. By the time he breaks out of the cloud, either he'll hit a mountain if it's there, or he'll go too steep, he won't be able to pull up, he'll kill himself. So what do you got to do, he tells me? You got to look in the gauge and follow it. And even, I remember this line he said to me, even if all your senses will scream to you, you're going the wrong way, ignore that, follow the gauge, you come out alive. Now, I'm not a pilot. Would never want to be a pilot. I learned that the Baal Shem Tov says, everything you hear and see, you take a lesson. And the lesson is very simple. The Eibush that gave us a Torah. And I spoke, the Torah is big. But it has halachas. We can understand what to do. Look in Torah. If you have a question what to do, follow what it says in Torah, and you'll fly out of your problem. And that's what I did. And if you rely on your senses, I feel like this, I feel like that, this doesn't really talk to me, it does talk to you, so Chas Hashem, what will happen? And this is when I was thrown into this solitary confinement. And it was dark. It was the darkest cloud I was ever in. It was a long night, and the HR was coming and trying to make me sugar. You see, God abandoned you on this and that and the other. And I have to forget. It says, it says a person will go through a hardship because Abishter wants to see does he love Abishter or not. So will show what you got. And I made a decision. I'm not going to walk away out of my tzitzis and want me to stay a day, a year. The only way out of here, it seemed like if I give in to them and walk without my tzitzis, I made a resolution. I'm not going to do it. In the morning, they sent in a psychiatrist. And I got a test. I passed the test. They said that I'm a mashugana. I don't want to walk. Yeah, crank. So he sent a psychiatrist. I said, that's what threw me into this solitary confinement. So the guy opens the little window and he starts asking me questions. And I answer the questions. And I started telling him, hey, what are you doing here? You don't belong here. I said, of course I don't belong here. I'm a Jewish guy. I can't walk around with tzitzis. I'm not crazy. Obviously, I'm not crazy. So he finished the middle of the test, he stopped, he went away, and 10, 15, 20 minutes later, 2 officers came in, and I got back my yarmulke and tzitzis. So this whole evening, I went through Arichas, I hope you don't mind the Arichas Shabbat, but I want to give you all the flavor and the lesson. We go through life, and sometimes it looks darker than dark. And we don't understand. And I'll share with you one more story. If you want to have some more stories, I bring it afterwards in the yeshiva. But for the little more time that I do have, I want to share with you another story about this Indian. But the Indian is like this. You go through life, and we have challenges. We have to look into Torah and ask, how does the Eibishter, there's nothing, the Eibishter creates us. And the Eibishter came down on Har Sinai and teaches us everything we have to know about ourselves, about the world, and about our mission in life. If we're missing something, we're looking for happiness, we're looking for emotional health, everything is in Torah. If you don't know where to find it, ask somebody who does. But it's there. And definitely, don't try to find answers from places that don't know from Torah, because there, it may take you to a place you never want to go to. And I'll show you the following story on this issue. One of the things that gave me a lot of chizik, so this is, then from here they threw me out from this prison. This was Friday. They threw me out from prison. And I don't know how people got thrown out of prison, basically. And they transferred me to somewhere else in Iowa. I want to, it's a small story, now I'll tell you a story about the mail. I got taken to a place called Sioux, I think it was Sioux City or Sioux Falls. Sioux City, Iowa. And they pulled me into this thing, and over there, Baruch Hashem, they let me have a consistency. They took me in this little cave, mamash a tzimtzum, even smaller than 6 by 8. And I was mamash crying because I didn't have my consistency. My thousand film. I have my thousand film. And I asked the God, my thousand film, we don't know where it is. So he said, as I said, I could have said, okay, 1,000 film. I never missed a day 1,000 film. I didn't want to miss a day 1,000 either. And I knew that I have to do whatever I can to have 1,000 film. Eines Hamad Patre. I have a Rebbe, Rebbe Khan said, Eines Hamad Patre will command of them Rinon. I didn't want to miss the 1,000 film. So I was thinking, what could I do that's going to prompt them to give me 1,000 film? I have a good idea. I figured that they have a chrayas to keep me healthy. I claim it. They have a chrayas. That's why they don't whip me. They would torture me, but they have a chrayas for that. Yeah. So I tell them I can't. They brought me food to eat in the morning. It wasn't kosher. But I didn't tell them it wasn't kosher. I tell them I can't eat. Why can't you eat? I didn't daven. So daven. I can't daven on 1,000 film. Right? So they realized I'm not eating. If I would have said I'm fasting, they would have forced me to eat. Yeah. So they didn't know the Bible to eat coffee and cake before davening. And I wasn't about to tell them either. And they didn't offer coffee and cake before. They would bring me a bagel. So I said to them, I can't eat. It worked. 15 minutes for Shkia. This is how it played itself out. I go very quickly over here. 15 minutes for Shkia. They take me out of the cell, they bring me into a room, and there's a guy standing over there, Rabbi Green. He's standing over there, a wonderful Jewish man, he's a rabbi in this little town. And my pals bag is on the table. I was besimcha, but you don't understand, because every time I saw this happening, I saw the Eibush is with me. Every time, it's not what I got the mitzvah. The Eibush is with me. The Yetzirah wants to convince me I'm going through a difficult the Eibush banned me, finish not. I got my 1,000 film before Shkia. But this guy starts chanting with me. Shalom Aleichem, and Rabbi Gin, Shalom Aleichem. I went up to that, and he starts telling me his whole life stories about Shuvah, and he learned in this yeshiva, and that yeshiva, and he learned in the Marastan yeshiva. I was about to tell him I was in Marastan, but I figured I better shut up because he'll keep on talking until after Shkia. So I said, Rabbi Green, ich muss on film. Okay. I opened my talis big. I took my talis, and I was sat from the talis, and I got to tell you, don't try it, but after fighting for a mitzvah, I felt a hug. I put on mitzvah towels, and my didn't want to take it off, but it was getting late, so I took it off. And I put my hands in to take out my film. I have Rashi in times, yeah? And the Rashi is missing. Only one big, there's two bigs, and one big is this. I pull out, I was hoping it's Rashi's around times. So I asked the officer there, I said, where's there's two bigs here? So I said, yeah, there's two bigs. You're only allowed to have one talus and one film. They sent you two. So we took one away. So, what am I supposed to tell her? Listen, lady, you don't understand. There's a machlekes, Rashi and Tosfos. Last night I was fighting and telling him, I can't walk without alcohol and sit. It's versteht man. What do I do with this over here? I was like, and this, for whatever reason, was quiet. I was like lost, and the time is ticking. What would a bit of time do such a matter? I put a bit of time. I said, Shema. And Shema Esrei, and Shema Esrei, there's a whole more discussion of this also. Emunah means there's a protest. The Eibishter creates in the Shaykh of Emunah. The Eibishter creates every second. It's not just the Eibishter knows where I am. The Eibishter is creating the matzah for me. The Eibishter brings me every second. Hashgacha protest means if you have Emunah, because you have Emunah, the Eibishter is creating the world. That means the Eibishter is creating me in this matzah of Mamash Hazeh. So I have to, 1 second, this guy just finished telling me I thought it was a yente, telling me his whole life story, but really he was telling me he lived in Maristan, in Tverbechorim. I checked with Rabbi Lipsky, he remembers him. So he said, he knows that we put on Ras million times. So I quickly finished the minute. So I turned around to him and said, listen, if I tell this person that I have to put on 2, he's sure not going to believe me. I said, well, you tell him I need it, what's it given? He did it. He came in, he said, this guy needs the other one because it's part of, yeah, I got it. I got my Rashis, and I put on Rashis. I think I never missed, there's a few other stories, I never missed one day 1,000 film in the place called prison. And this comes from our desire, in desire to be connected to the Ratzon Hashem. How do we know what Ratzon Hashem is? It's by learning Torah. How are you inspired to do Ratzon Hashem? It's by learning Torah, and that's why we're here tonight. The Harambam is a Sefer Moli Ratzon Hashem. Don't tell me that the mitzvahs are not negated today. Don't tell me that we don't paskin like the Rambam in this halacha. We're not learning the Rambam to know how to paskin. We're learning the Rambam to know what Ratzon Hashem is in every aspect of Torah. That's Ratzon Hashem. And when we know what Ratzon Hashem is, so then you can act on it. And finally, I'll share with you the story about the Siyum. I went through a little bit of the Siyum. I'll tell you experience. Baruch Hashem, one of the things, it says in Sha'ar B'tochen, it says that one of the way you mechazik yourself in the Tachel, even though you're going day after day, day after year after year, and you're not seeing your Yeshua yet, be mechazik yourself by seeing that the Eibishter is constantly is with you. That you see the Eibishter is helping you, even in the matzav you're in. I remember getting a questionnaire came in from one of the magazines, I think for Pesach. They interviewed me one year, they asked me a question, one of the Tachel, I answered no. One year there was a wise guy asked me a question, okay, it's here number 6. Is your Munah stronger or weaker? I never was offended. I want to say stronger, but I have to put something to it. It's stronger. How is it stronger? So I had to think a few minutes. But I have to. That's the answer, right in the base. He says, the Teras and Asmidas. I said, I've been going through a prison already for years, 6 years. And I see in prison all this teva and that teva and this teva and that teva. That means even here David is with me. I didn't get what I wanted yet, to be freed. But I'm the same way the Abish is answering me and everything else. The same way he's going to answer me here too. That's the tale from Asmidas. Because I was thinking to myself, of course the Abish still is good to me until now. Baruch Hashem, I had a beautiful life, I had beautiful parents. And Baruch Hashem, I had beautiful yeshivas, I had good friends. But I've always worked hard. But now in physical prison, 27 years they want torture. How can I see now tests and Asmidas? But if it says in Torah that you have to think about the Eibush tests and Asmidas, that means you have to find it. I didn't find it right away. Then I get up every single day. I'm healthy. I'm in a dangerous place. If I was told Shabbos to leave, I'd leave on Shabbos. I never heard. One time I had a matzah. The guy almost wanted to beat me. One time. And the prayer never happened either. Eden writing me letters. Listen to this story. Eden writing me letters. Every single day, as I told the guy, my talking is stronger now because I can see how the Eibush is with me and the husband the same way that she needs till now. My family's Baruch Hashem gesund. My kids are going to yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, and they're staying on the Derech Hashem. The government illegally took away all the money from myself, from my father, all of Shalom. Mamash illegally, or the Eibush sent money in different ways. The Eibush didn't forsake us. And money came inside. So where's all coming from? But that's Tamazay. All the rachamim you see in your life, it says it comes from the Eibush. So the Eibush is with me. That's Tesam Asmidas. So I get letters every single day. Mamash, I'd say, I don't think I once went over to the guard, I asked him, is mail for me today? He says, listen, mister, Rabashkin, every day that finishes with a Y, you get mail. Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. And was that? Sometimes 5 letters in. Now, the mail was given out in front of 100 people, 120 people. I mean, yeah, they walked on 2 feet. But the were, and a lot of them never saw a piece of mail. I can say they never saw mail, and they see that I'm getting mail. Sometimes 5, sometimes 10. A good day was 20, 30, sometimes 40 from a class. So, it's not going to. And I realized this is no good because they started making jokes. About my beginning of their mail in prison, we made these jokes don't really work, but this is the beginning of a fight. I didn't know what to do. And one day somebody cuts me off, and an Italian accent tells me, Rabashkin, I have to talk to you. I talk to him. Okay, what do you want? He said to me, I have a question for you. This guy is Einstein's second cousin. A philosopher. And he fragt me as a scheidler. Hey, why are you taking away all our mail? He was a forward thinker. You're laughing. He had to figure out right. I was 10 years behind. Today, it's perfectly understood. There's 100 people standing in the room, and a big mail comes in with 100 pieces of mail. Everybody should get 1 piece of mail, no? Yeah, chutzpah, a privileged guy gets 20 pieces of mail. Chutzpah ganzen. I couldn't imagine. If you're listen, I was worried about, I'm old-fashioned, so me it's kind of funny. So, but I was worried about the word hour. Of course, the search was the gangs. And I wasn't sure he was talking about the gang, between gang and not gang. So I decided instead of I was going to walk away. But I don't answer this guy the thing. If I'm in prison, you don't say explain. You explain him. If I don't explain him, then he'll think he's right also. So I started explaining. So listen, mister, I believe every single day. I believe in God. And I believe every single day God's going to free me and get me out of here. So tomorrow I'm not even here. So what do you think? You think tomorrow you're getting more mail? No. My mail is my mail. is going with me. So the bag is coming in smaller. You're not going to get more mail on that here. And he didn't understand it. So I took a different angle. I said, listen. First I showed him every single letter that I had my name on it, and then this. Then finally, I have another idea. As I'm going through the mail, I tell them, even if you got my mail, even if you got my mail, you couldn't even read it, I bet you. I opened up a letter. I wanted to show him. It's not going to get a letter written in Yiddish. English I wasn't sure to read either, but I was, this was different. I said as Italian. You couldn't read it. Looks at the letter. Of course, couldn't read it. They finally leaves. Maybe I hit the right answer. The bottom line is this: I walked away from there. I realized it's a very dangerous situation. To show you the danger I was in, the Baruch never got hurt. But I realized that I have to do something. So I went to the guard and I told him, listen, this is what happened, and it's a dangerous situation. I'm giving permission for the guy that I was with in the same cell. He should pick up my mail. I don't want to be in the war zone over here. So they did it. They got permission, and I didn't have to stay there. And I was out of line of fire, and I said, so it went. But for weeks, again, Baal Shem Tov says that everything we see and everything we hear, you have to take a lesson of Hashem. It's one of the things I utilize in keeping understanding. That's how I got a whole book, because I actually used to share with my family these stories, and they kept the emails, and when my son wrote the book, he was able to write it out, because this is how it happened. I wasn't intending to write a book, but I was just sharing with my family and telling them, to show them that I'm alive and I'm happy and I'm learning, and it helped my kids also. So for weeks I'm trying to think, what's the lesson here, until it hit me. Every single person going, they gave me a lesson here. Every single person going through a Siyum, every single person going through a challenge is a common denominator in everybody's challenge. Whether the guy is struggling with money, if the guy is struggling with health, if the guy is struggling with shidduch, any problem you have, every person has a common question in their mind. And the question is, you look at somebody who doesn't have that problem, and you wonder to yourself, why can't my life not be like his? Fair question. David chooses to give. Why can't my life, and I have this, and at times, we have a Yetzer Tov, and that question comes from Yetzer Hara. Do you have to answer the Yetzer Hara? That comes from Yetzer Hara because it's not a proper question. I'll explain you why. So everybody going through a difficulty has this question in his mind. He thinks that his life, he can get somebody else's life, and this might with a mail hit me. My life is like my mail. I was trying to explain to this guy, you can't get my mail. Emunah means Hashem creates me for a purpose. Emunah doesn't just mean that there is a Beira Elam. As the Harambam continues to say, the Emunah means that the Eibishter creates me for a purpose. And the purpose is what I'm going through is my purpose. So if I think the Eibishter will give me everything I need for the purpose. So if I fulfill my purpose, and like I say, I passed in the Siyum. So first, before getting to the passing in the Siyum, so to say, I wish, if only this way, if I would have what he has, I wouldn't even know what to do with it. The same I told this guy, if you got my mail, you couldn't even read it. Think about it. I married the person I'm supposed to marry, and my children are exactly the children I'm supposed to have. My talents are exactly the talents Hashem gives me in order to fulfill my purpose. I don't have to be the Rosh Hashiva if I can't be a Rosh Hashiva, and if I could be a Rosh Hashiva, I have to be a Rosh Hashiva. I have to fulfill the way the Eibishter creates me, but I don't walk around. So if I'm faced in the Siyum, I have a Siyum called prison, I have to realize this is my purpose, this is my mail. And I shouldn't be thinking why. I used to have the same problem. My whole family's outside, my friends are outside. Why am I stuck in this insanity asylum? And this I got the answer in a very vivid way. I got the answer that my life is my mail. If you look at it that way, mitamol, you're not depressed. You're not afraid. You're never afraid. Emunah means Hashem is with you. You're never afraid. Not because you're a wise guy. Because you know David is with you. How do you know David is with you? Because you're with David. How do you know David is with mitzvahs? I have a cousin. I'll finish with this book. I have a cousin. He's come visit me many times. We were very good friends together, and he used to come visit me many times. And I used to tell him these stories about the Meiser Talkenfilm and Tzitzis and this Meiser. I got the book with Meiser. And one time he tells me, Stop being so good. He's a young man. I go, why should I stop being so good? I said, sure. Maybe she sees you handling it so well, he'll keep you for 27 years. That's what happens, you don't learn. He says, well, what you got to do is you got to stay in bed. Every morning, stay in your back in bed and don't get out of bed. And that's it. And then what? And then. Punkt verkehrt. Such an approach is a logical approach. And you can find a story that supports it. And these guys, everybody gets it. Does this say in Allah, does this say in Torah verkehrt? In Torah it says that the purpose of going through something in your life is the Siyum. How many times have you heard this from the Rebbe? Pass the Siyum and it's over. Punkt verkehrt. I told him this. Punkt verkehrt. Show the Eibishter that you're not intimidated by the Nisayim. Show the Eibishter that Terech can be your father and they're not going to bow down to Avodah Zarah. Show the Eibishter that even a place called prison, whatever problem you have, you're going to go down with the minion. You're going to learn that shit on learning. And you're going to take on to learn the Harambam every single day. If you can't do 3 prokim, 1 pedic, if you're not 3 prokim, benefits, and you do it every day. And you show the Eibishter even at a hard day and you want to go to sleep and you just want to blank out, you're going to make, you're going to do your shir, you'll learn the Harambam. Right? And then if he sees that this darkness doesn't push away, that all darkness was there for you to do that, and darkness goes away, and that's exactly what happened to me. Baruch Hashem, the Eibishter saw, I finished my Nisayim, I finished it, the Eibishter freed me, the Eibishter helped everybody should have their own personal Gula, but only like Gula Shalema with Mashiach for Kingdom now. Thank you, Ben.
Okay, I we're going to I encourage everybody to get the chance to buy Shalom Merka's book. But I have to say one thing, it's not a book that you can just read, you got to learn it. It's a sefer, not a book. So everybody, Meir will be here on the side, and if there's a need for another minion, he'll be outside. Thank you very much. Atzlacha Rabbah. He's first going to go, we're going to talk officially 20 minutes, less than that, 20 minutes. 20 minutes.